the whole thing is a big mess. And then meanwhile, we have Canadian bureaucrats out protesting, and as Harrison Faulkner puts it in his post on X, having a meltdown over being forced back to work 3 days out of the week because they're currently mandated to be there 2 days a week. So really, this is over one extra day of being in the office. And they're calling this the most anti-worker policies that they have ever seen. And I think like draconian, and they're using all of these very powerful, strong words.
I'd get real anti-worker with these people, but we'll save my opinions for after the video.
Yeah, have a look at this.
Fight to win!
An unusually outspoken Ottawa as public servants push back.
We're seeing these unions coming together, maybe for the first time ever, in the biggest way ever, to fight one of the most anti-worker policies that we've ever seen.
The new policy, most federal government employees will have to work an additional day a week in the office, now up to 3 days of their own choosing, starting next week.
During the pandemic, we saw an increase in productivity and work-life balance because parents were able to cover off their childcare responsibilities. They didn't have to pay for childcare before and after work.
And it's not just work-life balance. Civil servants say they're more productive at home compared to being in the office, where they now often don't have their own workspace.
I spend most of my job on team and on team meeting, and there's no real plus value for me to go back to the office.
But unfortunately for the union members, it's the employer, the federal government, who has the legal right to determine where work is done.
I'll bet you every employee would say they'd love to have the right to choose. But just because that's a preference doesn't mean it becomes an entitlement.
Yeah! Solidarity hot dog!
Remote work was a central issue in last year's public servant strike, but unions were unable to get work from home language in the collective agreement.
They say, it's not a collective agreement. Well, what do you think is going to happen next time? We're going to put it in the darn collective agreement.
The Privy Council office, who made no one available for an interview, says workers need to come back to provide better services for Canadians and build a stronger work culture, but both the feds and the unions have no hard proof to support their arguments. Mackenzie Gray, Global News.
You know, it's so funny to see that language right there at the end changing and actually, you know, saying who made no one available instead of the usual, no one at the Privy Council was available at the time of this interview. But it's interesting to see the media maybe changing their tune a little bit and putting the pressure back on the government to have that accountability. I mean, that's the entire basis of a functioning democracy, is to have a free and independent media who can ask those questions. But back to these melting down bureaucrats, I can't imagine the privilege it must be to get so worked up over having to be in the office an extra day of the week to serve Canadians.
Yeah, I'm not one to look, I work from home, but I make it a point, as you know, to be in my desk, ready to go, Zoom camera flipped on or Skype camera flipped on so that everybody in the company can see that I'm sitting at my desk ready to go. Because even though I work from home, I take it seriously. But these people are federal bureaucrats. They currently only work from home, or they work from the office 2 days per week. Mm-hmm. The extra day is going to kill these people. They say this is anti-worker legislation. I would get real anti-worker with them, as in I would fire them all and hire people who would go into the office 5 days a week, happily. Why? Because unemployment is up in this country. Way up. The numbers just came out today. It's at its highest it's been in 7 years outside of a pandemic. There are a lot of people who want those jobs and who would willingly skip into the office every single day to work 5 days a week in a desk so that they earned an honest day's wage to pay for their families. And these people are already paid too much. They already have too many benefits in the public sector. It's all done on the back of other working people. So this is crazy. I would be full Ronald Reagan with the air traffic controllers. Fire them all. Just fire them all. Bring in new people. Because it's crazy. It's not anti-worker to ask the worker to show up for the job they're paid for. But that's where we are with these people. The public sector in Ottawa continues to be and I know there are good exceptions in there, and I get your emails, I promise you, some of the laziest, most boring people on the face of the earth. They were the biggest drivers of the anti-convoy outrage because the horn honking stopped them from sitting in their pajamas, working on their laptop from home. I bet it would have been more quiet in the office. You should have went to the office, but here we are.
Yep, the laptop class telling you that it's the most anti-worker policy in history to simply be called back to work one extra day a week. That's where we are in Canada. Well, other people live in squalor as though they are living in a third world refugee camp.
It's the news event of the year. Canada's most controversial premier sits down with Canada's most controversial journalist, and everything is on the table. Come watch Ezra Levant one-on-one with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in front of a live studio audience in Calgary. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's held back. Questions that would make Justin Trudeau invoke martial law. Answers that will make Stephen Guilbeault pee his pants. You're not going to want to miss this one. But you have to be there, in person, at the Rebel News Live mega conference in Calgary on October the 5th. Tickets are limited, so drop everything and go to rebelnewslive.com right now. Special discounted prices for Patriots and special extra high prices if you're with the CBC. Go to rebelnewslive.com now.